with the last analysis in the chat. Going back to design after the beautiful supply of construction and water feature that we have, I will just wait for my presentation to be loaded. We at Al Amran have a motto. We design cities for our people. We design the cities of today to learn from what is in the past and for the heritage to become the heritage of the future. So this is our cities today. This is the view we have every day on our streets, either the big roads or the smaller roads in the narrow streets. It's dominated by car. It is no sidewalk, no car priority, deserted from people. While when we look at the past, our streets were our public space. Our streets were where people lived, where people meet. And we have moved, and I will move quickly over these two slides. Allow me, if you have any question, we'll follow later. The city of Riyadh, just 1 second back. Yeah, the city of Riyadh, as a case study, moved from the nuclear city, the organic city, into the plant city, whereas the public space that used to be the main plaza, the main streets, became now parks, and our public space became dominated by cars. How do we resolve our today challenge? It is possible to create a walkable city that has a vibrant public land, distinctive with identity, provide social spirit, humanistic and vibrant, transitioning in scale. And this is a little bit urban, but it has been achieved learning from the past. So if we move to the definition of a humanizing cities, what is a humanizing cities? In urban design, it's an approach to a human reflected city. In public realm, it's a place where people identify, where people don't feel over-dominated by skyscrapers. It's a livable environment that provides a lifestyle and integrity to the people and provides sense of ownership and belonging and definitely well-being. The topic that has been since morning we've been discussing. Definitely, theory is very good. However, without the empowerment of the government or the governmental agencies, it's difficult to achieve. Vision 2030 capitalizes on enhancing the quality of life, the social engagement and cohesion, encouraging physical activity, improving active mobility, and many other pillars of the vision supported this initiative. Further on, Mithaq al-Malik Salman or King Salman Charter, I'm sure you've heard of it, has also capitalized and characterized the national identity, the respect of the natural environment. So all of these empower really the concept of humanizing city into landscape and urban environment. From that, we derive the design principles that focuses on prioritizing pedestrian spaces, vibrant public spaces, safe, green, interactive, comfortable, playful, and definitely servicing all and maintaining its social and economical interaction and value. Because without that factor, really the design doesn't mean anything. Moving into the streets and the case of how do we humanize streets, we moved from humanizing the cities into the public parks and the playground, and we've seen that. But into landscape and into the real public space of the Arab world, which is the street, today we lack pedestrian sidewalk, we have littered trees, we have interrupted sidewalk, we have infrastructure that requires maintenance. However, the potential to design, yes, the potential to design is very high. The streets occupies around at least 20% of the city space. However, the limited space that we have available is very important. If it's designed very well, it can accommodate multifunctional transportation, furniture zones, safety for all, so by providing the ADA, and most importantly, the design between what is the street and the frontage of the building. That's our key place where we can really play a very important role. So if we provide the street in that section, there are priorities in design that develop. There are flexibility that will allow us to play in the design. Designing from city in a scratch, a new city, this is very easy because the space is under our control. But the challenge is with the existing streets. Next, please. So what we try to do when we look at the neighborhood and the street is to create safe movement, to create continuous green spaces. We can establish green connective networks that connect the different parks, the center of the district, all together to the schools, to the main commercial areas, and by creating a continuous safe pedestrian access. Next, please. So these are some of the design principles that we start in our practice putting. We have a vision, and that vision is then broken down into design strategies such as prioritizing pedestrian movement, incorporating, for example, cul-de-sac spaces, focusing on pedestrian alleyways that connects the neighborhood, improving safety through the buffer between the street, the parking, and the pedestrian space, and many other design principles. So at the beginning, before going into the priorities of how we reach those visions and how to reconceptualize the street from being a space for the car to being a space for the people. For example, over here, we envision the parking to be a green garden rather than a parking space that's empty. We envision the median in the street to become a linear park where people could make sports, interact, and it become a linear, active space. So how do we do this? By setting priorities. Out of learning from practice, there are 5 priorities that we need to look at. First is walkability and pedestrian safety. That comes in number 1. Second is parking requirement. We live in cities that depend on cars. And then the transition between being fully dependent on car to being car independent will take some time. So there is a niche of negotiation at this level. Definitely planting. We plant sidewalks that are within the range of 4 to 8 meters, for example, spacing between trees to create enough shade. We try to avoid what's 90-degree parking, more use 45-degree parking because they will allow us for spaces to plant trees. And definitely the side of the sidewalk, as much as we love wide sidewalk, try to avoid more than 4.8 meter wide sidewalk without any planting or without a second row of tree. We have the furniture zone, and the furniture zone and the planting are the same priority because they can be easily integrated together. The cycling track, as much as we love multimodal mobility, but it will take us some time to reach that to priority 1 or to priority 2, but it is included. And once there is no space for that, shared spaces or shared sidewalk could compensate for that. The frontage and the buffer zone, the more we have of these, the more the social and the active frontage in the street will happen, and the more the public the street will become. Next, please. Applying these principles over 2 examples. The first one of the same street, but the first strip is more dedicated towards sports, a sports corridor. So you see that we maximize the pedestrian zone. The cycling track is given its own property while we minimize the buffering and the planting space. In the commercial frontage, we maximize on the commercial area. The cycling path can be transformed into a shared path, while the buffer between those two is also very important. So the way we see and we manage the space and the dimension is really a key in transforming the designs. So these are some different alternatives, and I'll go quickly through them on how we can interpret the same width of the street with different alternatives that will allow for a more pedestrianized and humanized streets that are green, yet do not compensate on any of the priorities. These were some examples on the design strategies. For example, the relation between the street and the curb and the sidewalk is very important. Transitioning in levels, the ramps, on how we can transform the parking spaces into green areas. In days where we have no cars, it can easily transform into a cart. Next, please. However, all of this theory is very nice. When we come to implementations, we face some challenges, and those challenges are addressed to the designer as well as to the public authority that exists as well as to our society. First, we need to have a traffic study on board when we look for humanize the street. The perception of the street needs to change. We need to accept that there are some dimensions where we need to compensate on the wide roads in order to have more pedestrian spaces. Parking requirement and equity, and that's a very important factor where the project is very nice on paper. When it comes to execution, there is a lot of resistance because the society or the community will not find place to park or will have a bigger challenge. So that's a collaborative approach that needs to be done in community engagement to deal with the existing situation, to provide equitable parking, respect existing needs, and definitely provide parking space, collective parking spaces. Ramps and stairs, definitely ramps and stairs is a key item to provide accessibility for all. Existing plans, the people in Saudi Arabia and in the world, but in Saudi Arabia have developed an attachment to the plant that exists at their doorstep. They have irrigated them, provided them with a lot of attention. So considering on the preservation of these trees on sidewalk is very important, as long as they do not disrupt definitely the bigger public safety. Utility and services is a major challenge. How do we deal with that? Survey our utilities, have them monitored and scanned and take them into consideration, because relocating existing infrastructure is a big challenge. And finally, the cultural behavior. We need to learn to detox from the car. The metro project is coming, the BRT project is coming, and we can all see that Riyadh can be a walkable city easily. Finally, our designs are not only on paper. This is recent pictures from yesterday project dear to our heart in the Bob Street. The street is very challenging. Although we have a wide sidewalk, the challenges were much, but we can see that the transformation is acceptable and can happen. And in here we see 3 examples. The first one where we have a sidewalk and a cycling lane without a buffer zone because there is no space. However, in the second option, we dismissed the cycling and it became shared with the road, also due to the limited space, while in the third option, we were able to accommodate all 3. So by this slide, I finished the presentation and I thank you for your attention.